Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Let me just set this down and can get into the new moon here a little bit. We're working with this energy actually for more than likely a little bit of time. So each new moon and full moon has its sort of bubbling period. So. Full moons being actually especially potent, new moons as well in their own way, kind of inversely to the full moon, which is more extroverted. Divine. All right, I think we got a little situated, at least enough so that we could sit down and just chill with it sitting right side up. How cool. Divine timing, you guys. I literally just woke up. I was like in this heavenly state with this new moon wave we're riding out on, and I was like, I gotta get up. So take it as you will. How's everyone doing? Yeah, I thought I'd just get on and could just kind of roll through the waves here a little bit. It's pretty intense. Right, new moon in and of itself already being a rather intense sort of, I could say, culmination. Hello, Kurt. Well, if it isn't Kurt. And hello, Priscilla. Hello. Hello, everyone. Love and light to you. Hello, Masabeth. Everyone. Love and light to you all. Markers, everyone here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Chris. And and it's funny because lo and behold, the new moon is actually in Cancer. So this is the domain of Cancer that we're talking about. The moon is actually the ruler of Cancer. So got a lot of really strong, healing energies at play. Divine feminine as well coming through as a focus. Hello, quantum love. So yeah, whatever you want to call it, Kurt. Time. That thing called time. sort of on off. Every now and then. Hello, Autumn France. Hello everyone. So good to feel you all here. Wow. Yeah, so I was like, I was just sleeping and kind of catching up. And P.S. Oh, hello, Vesna. Really behind on private services. So if you're so-called waiting on one, I'll hopefully get to you sooner than later. But what is time yet again? So hey, it's all on the wave that we ride it out, right? Oh, hell, Autumn, that's so sweet. All right, happy to connect with you. Hi, Terry. Hello, Clyde. Hey, Philly. So yeah, it's a really it's interesting because the new moon is kind of like subdued in form, kind of when compared to the full moon, but it still has this sort of profundity to it in the way that it can influence us, right? So it's not more like introverted space, like where we face that conscious subconsciousness, how we sort of reflect what it is that maybe at times we don't consciously acknowledge, right? Which is more like the full moon energy. So where is Cancer in everyone's chart? Wow. So Jennifer Castillo, you have a Cancer moon. So what have you been feeling? Oh, also you do too, Vesna? Wow. Okay. Hi, Helios. Hey, Christina. Mystic Greek Siren. Oh, your Mars. Wow. Sun, Venus, Mercury, Midhaven. Wow. Okay. So, yeah. So, I have my South Node in Cancer. So, and it's funny because it's in my ninth house. We just had the full moon in Sag. Sag rules the ninth house, so it's kind of like this inverted relationship. It's like, here we are at the full moon in Sagittarius, and then it's like new moon. It's like we're back, but from this other angle of the room. You know what I mean? It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. All right, Kurt, you get at it. So yeah, it's interesting. Well, sometimes when we try to like really think about what we're experiencing in a way where we're like, it needs to make sense. We need an answer for this experience. We can at times feel even more confused. Sometimes the only way to move with these energies is to actually just move with them. In this case, specifically with the new moon, it's the feeling space. Specifically in Cancer, it's that space where it's kind of instinct, especially emotionally. We're sort of seeing our emotional instincts maybe from a new perspective. And the honesty with that connection that you hold, or consciously, subconsciously becoming more clear. So where is it that we kind of like, we shy away maybe from our instincts? And what this really brings me to think of is really the relationship with the mother, right? In any form. Be it, you know, even a product that you somehow feel you mother in a certain way. And that's not related to gender and what's gender, but you know, everybody has that sort of complexity. So, and specifically in the way they showcase their talent here is what I'm hearing in this dimension. So it's interesting how we're honest with that space of impulse, and I think that's really the conversation of the feminine, right? If we think about the moon, that's like sort of the internal being, right? It's a receptive sort of ability that we all hold, whereas the sun, right, being more related to that space of expression, masculinity. So how is it that we're sort of at peace even with that space that we undoubtedly are receptive to? So it's like, you know, and that makes me actually think of psychic talent, right? The ability to feel, we all in a certain way are present in relation to every sort of energy field, but how we are acknowledging what we are aware of, I think, is that space where we are in touch with that feminine nature. So does that bring us the question of vulnerability, right? How are we aware of what we feel? So it's like maybe, you know, feelings, that feeling that's intuition related to the archetype of Cancer. You know, it's like, it's the thing, this question, how does a mother know what the children need? Thinking about animals, right? How do they kind of know, and be that even the inner child, what is needed in a certain place, time? Sometimes there are no answers for that. You know, there's no like, oh, I know why I feel like I should do that one thing, say that one thing, go to that one place, share how I'm feeling in this particular moment. Right? That's, as I might find it, the wisdom to just feel freely without contemplating those feelings. And I think that's really that space of the Cancer moon, the impulsivity of our nature, of everyone's nature, right? So I think this is a time where we're becoming really clear of how honestly we're confronting that space. You know, do we have an impulse, in other words, and we sort of like, we like pause. Like we impulse and we're like sort of like our aura has jumped forward, but we've sort of like held it back. And in that case, who are we, right? What is holding that space back from actually communicating consciously what we subconsciously feel? So it's a moment of honesty, of rawness, and it's an interesting time. Because we have 5-6 planets retrograde, right? Mercury just went retrograde as well, so it's even more like goo goo gaga. Like you feel something, you want to say something about whatever you're feeling, and it's like blah. But maybe that is actually the intelligence of wisdom to be able to express and convey that feeling of, well, I don't know how to say it. And let that be the honesty of the moment. So, it's a time possibly where we find peace with the subjective understanding of what it is that we actually want. Our inherent impulses of desire, of need, and the inner child, right? It's a moment really for that sort of conversation to be had. And it's also the eclipse. So, in whatever this space is of us expressing ourselves, or what is it that just naturally by way of that truthful expression will fall to the side? And how do we communicate also to that aspect of our being that we willingly interact with in whatever way it chooses to still participate in our reality? So what doesn't resonate with the yearning of the inner child, the needs of the inner child, how is it that we understand it in that way, that it also wishes to be expressed? So that can be emotional, especially when we have participated in a certain space as an adult for so long, where we say, well, I am like a part of this world, and like, this is real for me. How is it that we actually confront that character, the characterization of our truth, the voice of the inner child? Having faith in that moment that even the words that are spoken right then and there do not have to make sense. Right? It's like, how do we allow the poetry of the trueness of nature of the inner child to actually be what communicates the truth? Logically or not. So we're kind of like facing ourselves in this way around this time. Not necessarily knowing who we are and facing ourselves, but in accepting what it is that we may even recognize has not been reflected in our commitment to be real. I think it's a great time to ask ourselves why we do what we do. Our motivations, our impulses, where are they driven from? And something that I actually love so much about children is that they oftentimes don't question the space of yearning. You know? Where is it that we have sort of traversed through this spectrum and this dimension, so-called time and space, and accumulated all of this clothing upon what is just natural and real? Right? That sort of echo of the child that found its way in a state of reverberation upon things that have stood in its way in finding its truest form of manifesting in this dimension. Where is it that we have actually worn clothes upon our highest conversation with our higher self? I'm hearing that song by J-Lo. It's like, 'cause I'm real, what you see is what you get, something like that. You know, kids don't really fear. You know? Unless they've, like, seen it in a movie. Or, like, read it in a book. Or been told some ghost story. But I think naturally the imagination is not haunted, if you ask me. think that we, in our natural state, live in a space of absolute intention that awaits to take on form, courageous with love. So I wonder, what, wow, I'm seeing energy, angels, what, if we were to define in just a very simple way, what it is, what matter it is that kids actually work with, what would it be called? When kids are brought into this dimension to interact on this plane on Earth, what is their subject? What is it that they communicate about? What it is that they create, maybe even before they have created it? Is that the space of the imagination? What is real to them in that moment in which they dream? Is it called love? It's interesting. Or color. I think kids feel all colors naturally. You feel them. How is it that as adults we've come to, in some way, shape or form, discern them from one another, where we go, that's purple. Okay, yeah, I got it. Alright, we're dealing with purple here right now. Okay. Let me point to another object. And we feel that in some way it resembles another color on the so-called spectrum. How do we identify color? Is it just a convenient mechanism by which we communicate with our passion in the many ways it takes on life? What is love? I think it's a beautiful time as well to think about the space of self-talk and our habits within that space, of how we routinely engage inner child to communicate with it honestly. Thank you, Clyde, for your donation. Love and light to you. Thank you for connecting on the many levels that you do. How is it that we give a platform for the child to create whatever it is that it so wishes, in that space of feeling free to do so? The freedom to create. So I think my mom is in the room. So how about I Mom, you want to step up to the podium? You know, you're a Cancer sun, Cancer moon, right? Don't be nervous. We're just talking about kids after all. So-called ironic. Yeah. And sometimes we don't have words, actually. Right? And that's also natural, that's also normal in a certain way. By not fitting into what may be normal, right? It's like maybe somebody asks a question, expect an answer, right? Sometimes the right answer is not having one, not having an answer, no matter how another may expect there. They may expect there to be one. It's funny. This nail polish bottle says, "Oh really?" Oh really? And you know, it's not uncommon, right, for the truth of one to be questioned by another, to be tested in many ways, according to the spectrum of truth that may be held according to another. Doesn't mean that expression has a right or wrong form that it takes on. And what I imagine this moment is like, when you ask kids, sometimes you can ask kids a question, and sometimes they'll just like stare at you blankly, and they'll just kind of they just sort of observe in feeling the answer without feeling the need to answer it. Which is interesting when we contemplate the role of language in that space, of how we connect with our answers to our so-called questions. How do we, in other words, define our reality as space around us? And I think it's so fascinating in relation to the concept of the child. Because if you think about children, right? They're sort of, well, they're so-called born, right? They're so-called born. They have this way of traversing through so-called time and space, gaining familiarity, so-called. And what is that? It's always, in a certain way, subjective, right? For one person to feel familiar in a certain space, to feel comfortable in a certain space, can be so different from the next. Some people can spend 20 years on planet Earth and feel totally uncomfortable with their community, with their environment, with their connection to the things, the people, and the places around them. So how is it that kids personify that process of how we consciously move through the way in which we identify our world? By way of that, what we make of it. In other words, potential. What is our currency as creators in this plane? It's interesting to think about. So how are you guys doing? How are you guys feeling? What role does energy play at this time for you? Are you feeling in touch and in flow with energy? Or do you feel like it's disrupting your creative process in some way? Of whatever you feel you're participating in the space of creating, whatever, way. Do you guys feel like there are experiences that are also arising that are triggering? And if so, what does that feel like? What does that process feel like? Like when you feel in a moment, like you get this panicky feeling of like, oh, I'm nervous, or I feel like I'm in a state of angst or anxiety. I have anxiety. What does that process feel like? Where does it then sort of lead? And do you find that there's a sort of pattern with that? Where is it that the triggers, so-called triggers, actually create room for consciously moving through that experience of oh, interesting, Lala. Lala says it starts in my tummy. So, and then where does it go? what does it do from there? Wow. From tummy to heart, must have faith. So you feel that energy, like in your sacral chakra region, and then it just sort of raises up, like Teletubby region, and then it just raises up, and it moves through the heart chakra, feeling ringing my ear right there. Does it reach the throat chakra? How is it that it flows? And what about the crown chakra? Hi, Status Divine. Love and light to you. I was gonna send you a DM earlier today. I totally, the universe was like, whoop. I went into this like trance-like state, so. Kundalini is activate. Cool. Interesting. So it seems everyone has a sort of different sort of pattern, the flow of their so-called trigger. Interesting. Well, Mom, it's actually interesting. Well, because you have your moon, your Mercury, you got your moon in Cancer, right? You also have your Mercury in Cancer. So, and Mercury's retrograde now, and actually Mercury is in Cancer right now. So, there is a really strong focus on the way we communicate what we're processing right now. And everyone will have their way of processing that energy space. Some people will find that it helps to paint. Some people will find that physically working with their hands in some way dissipates that energy space. Hello, Alberto. It's so good to feel you here. Thank you so much for your donation. Love and light to you. Communication, which is generally related to the archetype of Mercury, the throat chakra, air energy, can take on so many forms, right? You can communicate with your eyes. You can be in complete silence. You can communicate with your third eye, with your eyes closed. You could still be communicating. So it's like, not judging that process of, well, I need to perfect this feeling with the right way of communicating it, in the way that is so called accepted. I'm hearing that specifically. Expected, accepted. How many of you are grappling with this space of translating what it is that you are and you're feeling, where you're like, this is real for me? I just don't have enough, for a number of hearing, experience to define it. To say, well, it's maybe a really new experience, it's a really new feeling that you're having. Right? What way do you feel like you're actually not just awakening to a new feeling, but redefining the way that you communicate your feelings altogether? And the space of feeling your feelings. Like, I think what's becoming really clear right now is how we're actually doing that. And how, no matter how difficult it is to capacitate those feelings, that we're doing that. And saying, I'm giving the time and space. I am the audience to my own inner child. To communicate with the space of what I can only feel. So in other words, if you feel like you're having a difficult sort of time, so-called, with communicating what you're feeling in a more extroverted sense, funneling down maybe to the question of, well, how is it that I'm actually communicating to that very space of communicating it to myself? You know, it's almost like, well, I have to understand what it is, let's say, that I'm feeling, and now I want to communicate. I have to get my so-called, my head on straight, so-called, to know what I'm hearing profess for a number of you. So, for how many of you is there that space of, well, I know I feel something, I can qualify it with my emotion, but I don't know how to create the space around it in a way that I can formalize with words to also formally address. So for those of you who are also having like creative blockages where you're like, I have these like great ideas, but I don't really get it in terms of my creative work, in terms of, this can be, let's say you've got a hobby even, you're like, I know that this is like a gift of mine, I'm talented in this space, but then when you turn you orient in the direction of like, wow, it's gonna become a profession, then where is it that we suddenly sort of sink in the connection to the feeling? Where is it that we've really gone in that stream of consciousness where we sought to prove that feeling to something so-called tangible and real? It's interesting because it makes me think of, those moments when you're creating and you're just not even like, you're not really you're not thinking of it in any way. You're like not thinking of it, let's say even in terms of a business, like let's say, you're just like making music, or you're like drawing something out and maybe writing a story, like to one of your friends. Like in those moments where you're not shaping your magic formally, it just makes me think of how important vulnerability is. And why it is that if that feeling is so pure, so-called space of ego could have such an influence in how we saw it. In other words, it's like if something is so real for us at one point in time, let's say even like you meet someone and you're just like, oh my gosh, like when I met this person, I just felt this connection. It was just what it was. And then I went home and I psyched myself completely out of the feeling. What happened in that moment? How was the ego space of expectation that we lay upon ourselves to formalize that feeling so relevant? it's interesting to think about. Right? Just kind of meditate on the moments in time where you felt blocked creatively, or like, you know, you held yourself back from something that maybe you knew you really wanted. It's kind of cool to think in those moments what you really wanted. You know, if I allowed my ego to get in the way of what it was that I felt at point A I really wanted, and at point B I then sacrificed due to a so-called space of maybe fear of whatever, then in that moment, was it really that thing that I wanted? Or was it the desire to understand what I felt I considered related to it? What is it that reflectively holds value for me? And I know it's a bit abstract possibly, but feel free to share. Just channeling here what's coming through. I do believe that if you really, really want something, it's already existed. And the feeling of so-called wanting it is just that feeling of accessing the appreciation for it in the space that it already exists within. Sometimes we think we want something. Sometimes we you know, and that's not a criticism, right? We are here in human form, interacting with the space of desire and passion and intuition and impulse in these like really, really interesting ways where we test our own will, so-called, our inner child, our intention, our intuition, and we begin to interact with them in these varying ways, and then we come to confront the way that we interact with it, because in this dimension there are ways to interact, right? In different ways, you know, psychically, yeah, spiritually, energetically, mentally, emotionally, physically, and we have the freedom to interact in the ways that we choose. So it can get kind of confusing. it can get kind of muddled, right? That's why it's important to ground as well. And those times where you feel like, I'm really caught up in my head about this. You know, especially if, let's say, you're working on something creative, like a creative project. The moon, Cancer, the fourth house, really related to, you know, water energy, very much related to that space of creativity, imagination, right? Imagine creation in and of itself, creating a child related to the moon, the concept of the fourth house and Cancer. Imagine, like, that's so wondrous to think that you would bring a being into form. So that concept of creativity, not knowing, just working with the dimension of passion and magnetism. And how many of you are parents? Whatever way you consider it. How do you feel about the concept of birth? It's interesting. And has it been any different than, let's say, the birth of a project, or, you know, could you see it as an experience that is reflected but yes, again, very important to ground. Interestingly enough, even, you know, within the space of what's considered to be creatively developed and creatively carried out, right? How it is that we admire that space. It's tricky sometimes because we can say, well, I have this idea, and maybe you hold it as a vibration, as a feeling. You say, well, I really want to see this come into XYZ form. Be it something that I want to vocalize, I want to be able to translate in terms of something that I can voice, an opinion around even the space of. Let's say it's something that I want to actually physically create, physically embody, pass on even, portray, represent, present, pursue, publicize, publish, whatever it is, right? It's like the way that we acknowledge or we admire whatever that vibration is, honestly, in relation to that space that you wish to transform it towards, here in that way, towards and as, actually as well, how is it that it does not sacrifice the trueness of that intent, of the vibration of the vision? It's interesting. It's the tango. It's the balance, right? Reminds me of the Justice card. As above, so below. Like a shooting star as well. That's what I'm imagining right now, right here. Like bursts of confetti. It's like this. Something explodes, right? I'm seeing lights. I'm seeing stars. Wow. I'm seeing angels. Energy. I'm seeing energy. Just because that form, in that moment of bursting, translucent in that period of time, a glimpse of matter, a state of transformation, just because the state of whatever that is in its originality transforms perhaps perceptively, how is it, based on the shifting of the dimension through which we may perceive it, how is it, it's like kind of abstract, but how is it that it actually does not translate its message differently? In other words, if there is a burst of consciousness, right, is it actually separate from the seed from which it activated its desire to express and translate just simply that feeling of passion? So it's interesting because actually what I'm communicating, I'm visualizing. So I'm actually like communicating a painting, kind of. It's like I'm kind of painting with my words. So, which is interesting because that's kind of channeling, right? State of lucid dreaming. For those of you who are like, at times I don't get it. And hey, sometimes I'll watch readings over, I'll be like, wow, I really don't get it, technically. If I'm wanting to just get it. Right? But in that state where I'm just flowing with feeling, the feeling around the vision that is communicated, then it's easier sometimes. Because then that brings us to the conversation of memory. The role of memory. If we had an experience and we held a memory of it, and then over time we sort of uncovered that memory in whatever state, be it past life regression, whatever it might be, childhood to so-called adulthood, you have a memory, you recall it. Is that sort of photograph, the encapsulation of the vision in original form, does it actually change in the space of recollection of it? When you recall recall an experience, what happens? What is it? What is the circumstance or the context? What is the environment through which we relate to that memory? It's interesting. And that's actually what Cancer also speaks to. Patterns, cycles, memory, right? The lunar cycle in and of itself, right? The pattern of the moon in orbit with the sun, extroversion, introversion, impulse, expression, sensation, empathy, receptivity, ultimately first to the inner child, and then to express that form, to engage in that space of creation with another, right? The merging of the consciousness of the sun and the moon. How do we see what we love for what it is? It's interesting. How we say it is the way in which we recall it. Possibly. Which is unique for everyone, right? Everyone will have these different ways of acknowledging the space of memory. So how many of you are really, how many of you spend a lot of time with kids and interact with them and really sort of are able to pick up on the patterns? And it's kind of interesting. I want to sort of segue that to the space of memory when it comes to children. You could think of the space of imagination with children, but also what about the space of memory? How do you find that kids interact with the space of memory? And is it related or reflective of the space of the imagination? If we think of imagination as this sort of projectile into the so-called space of future, how is it that the past somehow plays a role? I'm curious. I don't really have kids, but I think they're fascinating, you know? So, it's interesting to think. Sometimes, you know, not having kids is a sort of challenge for us to recall our connection to the kid within us. Sometimes. Interesting, Stephanie. Yeah, so let's clear that. How do kids work with experiences of emotion? And is memory emotion? Right? If there's an experience, how do we remember it? In other words, how do we form a relationship to it as something that we can then come back to? How does that memory or imprint of the imagination hold frequency in time and space, actually? You guys, I got my moon in Sag. I got my friggin' moon in Sag. So we're here at the new moon in Cancer. We're talking about Sag kind of right here, right now. Sagittarius like, woo, Jupiter, you told me to jump. It's interesting. Everything is interesting to a moon in Sag. The open mind. Oh, do you, Kimberly? How cool. I'm gonna get a quick sip of water. 1 second. Just regenerate real quick. Encourage the cellular turnover rate for Sagittarius. You know, we expand and we contract. We expand and we contract. Right. In this space of thawing out our vision. It's interesting. Water break. It's funny, Marcella. I feel myself in all of you. That's interesting. It's funny. I actually started the channel. When I started the channel, I remember, like, my first few videos, it was like, I literally was like, I don't have anyone that I really speak to. But I just flow. I kid you not. I kid you not. Anyone know how to read backwards on Apple style systems? They just flip the camera. It says Y flow. Terry. Oh, it's not backwards? Oh, it shows me it's backwards. I guess to you it's inverted? Wow. Alright, well, that's not symbolic. So, what is the difference between me and my audience? Alright. Interesting. Why would I see it backwards when it is upright for my audience? Brings a question of, in the moment that I create what it is that I do and I express what it is that I do, why is it that I question that I'm separate from the audience? Why question the flow as well? Unless you have a Sag moon and a lot of Scorpio energy, then you question everything, you know. In that case, we can't blame you. Listen, Sagittarius has to at least present the question. Scorpio will answer it, or at least investigate it. Maybe then you need some Gemini energy to communicate it, the answer. The representative of Sagittarius and Scorpio. Gemini's like, all right, I got the facts. Well, they kind of figure them out. they got the facts, but I assimilated it, the data. Scorpio had a lot of shit that I dug up. Sagittarius was way too excited with the questions it posed to Scorpio, and I just feel like I have to say it. Gemini. How do animals communicate as well? It's so interesting to think that in no way is there like a order and expectation to the dialect of passion, and yet it still exists. Kind of still free as well to take on whichever form it wishes. So in other words, how is it that we kind of reflect our relationship to that feeling of passion in the way that we choose consciously to perceive of it in our communicative reality, in our communicated experience here. And to see the form that everyone takes on in communicating it, it's kind of interesting. You know, one may choose to communicate a certain feeling by not communicating at all. Interesting. Do you guys ever feel hurried or rushed? In that moment when you're like feeling like you're on the verge of creating something like really, really profound in some way, really real, whatever that may mean to you. And what is it that we feel we're sort of running towards or running away from, and caught in the interim of space of understanding our path to? What is time in relationship to passion? Ultimately, if the passion resides within us, and if we are authentic with that feeling, has it actually transformed over time? Tashism says, I'm gonna cry. Right there, we had 10% battery. You got this little notification. 10 out of 10 on the homework assignment for the new moon in Cancer. Hi, Kimberly. I'm hearing scar. I'm hearing that like right here. I'm squinting like the screen is super sunny. Need sunglasses. I'll enjoy these readings. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? Another interesting thing to think of is how memory takes hold, not just in the mind as a memory, but physically. How it is that we physically address, and I'm hearing memory, but I'm hearing fear as well. Interesting. So in other words, what is it to be consciously create a memory where we say, wow, it's official? If we're going to remember that, how do we sort of compartmentalize a certain experience as one separate from a series of other experiences? We say, that's so real. Whatever that is, that experience that I so-called had. Why is it in those moments that we color in that frame more than others? More than another? What do we free in order to do that? And why would we do that? What is the role that a memory plays physically? The physical vessel. Where is it that emotion comes imprinted and laced in the way that we form consciousness around it? It's funny, I'm actually seeing emotion that passes through the physical vessel, and I'm seeing that it gets caught. It travels, it does, and it moves through these sort of branches, and it sort of gets like frozen. You know when you're watching a movie, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, pause, that's a really awesome scene right there, hold on. Let me just pause real quick and just like absorb it. What is happening right there? Why would you do that? And in what way, how is life different from a movie? Are we watching it? Are we observing it? Did we create it? Are we creating that movie? If so, why would we need to pause it to so-called absorb it? So what is the function of a memory? Is it something we feel we haven't yet made peace with? And if we let go, so-called, of it, is it something that then disappears, that is no longer a so-called memory? Is every single thing that you've ever experienced actually a memory? Why would we memorize certain parts of our verse more so than others? It's funny, I read someone's comment from like way back here, and I just saw prison, prisoner, so I'm channeling through reading, actually reading the comments, or reading through them in some way, you know? In what moment and in what way does our physical vessel catch up with the space of experience on an emotional level, on a spiritual level? Interesting. And who cares? At the end of the day, why our memories would be relevant to that of another. Where we say, I remember that person, and I remember what happened, and I remember the feeling, and I remember how real it was, and I remember myself in that space. Why is it that that space we would compare, we'd bring to compare, to question how it would stand in relation to the reality of another, the perceived reality of another? We say, well, do they feel the same? Is that person that I held an imprint of in some way remember me the same way? Was it real for them in the way that it was real for me? And should it so-called not be? Should they have allowed that, let's say, energy or emotion to continue to pass through without engaging with it in their physical space of remembrance? Imprinting it in the aura, what would that mean? For you. If you remember something, if you remember someone, and they've completely so-called forgotten, why does that fucking matter? Why do we think it matters? Why do we feel? We say, I promise I feel you, I'm hurting, because I feel that they don't remember. Why do you feel that it matters? I feel like, hold on. I have to remember to plug it in. Do we feel like memory is an answer? Maybe? Like the proof to a variable of some kind that we want to confirm, or we say, I feel like I love, so I don't let go. And I want to know if, it's like, what is that space of memory yet again? It's interesting. I'm hearing Cleopatra, and I'm feeling pressure on the upper right side cheekbone. I don't know what that's alluding to. Some pressure in the crown chakra activation. And I'm hearing, oh really? Since it's, it's it's backwards for me, but so-called backwards for me, and it's set up for you guys. Oh, thank you, Marcella, for your donation. So very kind, so very kind. To connect with us all here and share your light. The universe is an exciting place to be at this time. So many layers that we're traversing. It's just color though, right? It's interesting. I see people like experiencing different experiences, but what they're really interacting in the space of is color. Certain life experiences as color. It's interesting. impulse that travels through so-called time and space. You know? Hello, Athena. Hello. Good night, Chris Wolf. Oh, I just said good night. You said going to dinner. Okay, well, I guess you won't. Okay. I'm not suggesting fasting. But hey. But hey. What do you guys think about also the role of sleep in the human experience? What do you guys feel? Feeling some heat in the right eye? Hi, NLNA. Hello, Junior Fuentes. It's so interesting. I feel like I tune in and I tap into you guys, but one second, just a quick virtual head massage. Just a quick second. Who's massaging me? Okay. I feel like I tune in and tap into you guys like at times where you haven't actually like enter the room. It's funny. I feel like you guys have been typing. Like some people will be typing in the room for like a bit of time, and then I'll be like hello, like 20 minutes even though they've already been typing. So I don't know. With that, I don't know. It's interesting. I always kind of wonder how you guys feel when I like call your names out here. The so-called names. Like how does it feel? How do you guys feel like it's somehow relevant in some way to you in terms of how you connect to a conversation as well that you're having or want to take as well? Now, it's also a really wonderful time to be super patient as well. Okay. Recognizing what you need and recognizing what you need in relation to what you need. Even if it feels dorky, right? It's like, okay, sometimes is it you know, like, I feel like I need that, right? And you're like so set on that, and then you're like, all right, hold on. I love you. Hold on. I love you, but hold on. I gotta do that? To do that? You guys take the group photo, I'll be over here. Yo. You know, how is it that, like, what we need to do to capacitate what we love interferes with that feeling? Where we say, I want this, but it takes me outside of also my comfort zone. Because I'm over here right now. But what I want is over there. What I need is over there. So in what way is it that, like, we see it in the way of, well, I want to create that. But doing so would have to dismantle this other conversation that I'm having. With the hope that I know does not align with the faith that I hold with that vision over there. That love, that true love, that I know I don't need to try to accomplish. Because the moment that I acknowledge it, I'm there. And all I needed was just to be there with that feeling. That was the unity. But that feeling of daunting progression and moving towards it, is it actually the space of creating and moving closer towards that love? Or is the feeling of letting go of the space that just suspended us on the path that leads to creation. In other words, it brings me back to this point: if you really want something, dissolves in that moment, process of creating it. I really believe that. I'm sure you've all experienced this. Who's experienced this? Where you're like, those moments just, I want this with all of my being. I just literally, I light up like a glow stick with the feeling of what I feel for this experience, and it's just the emotion that I am allowing to consume me. In that moment, it appears. Not the mentalized love, not the mentalized space of, well, I know that this is real. I've also proven it. Not that kind of passion, right? The one that you can also predict, where you say, that's going to happen, I know it, it's true, it's real. It's on the way. On the so-called way. It's on its freaking way to me. The space of time and space. The hell? The heck? It's like waiting inside a room for you to enter it. Right? Waiting for yourself in the room. Hitting the drum roll. It's saying, please, 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 please appear. Please happen, you know. You're the creator of your world, right? But in what space is it, right? That we totally let go. We say, I don't even know what to think about what I'm feeling right now. And I don't even allow that to disrupt the feeling. Or we let go of the ego, of the mind, the body. The assimilation of our physical being and our mental being to that space of just being, feeling, one with it. Where my human self is not the captor of my dream, where I'm not creating as just a human, but a being. And that's enough. Where is it that you say, I love my life, and I love my journey, and I live on with it just because of that? It's a continuum, okay. That last, little bit of time there, alright. This iPad just died, so, yeah. right as we were getting teary. Alright, universe. Not letting me do my homework. Gotta get at least one cry out, you know? Finish the assignment for the new cancer. No, listen, there's no expectation of how you express what you really feel, right? There's no expectation. You don't have to cry. Okay? You don't have to not cry. You don't have to not cry. On either side of the spectrum, there's no expectation. Now, how many of you, I'm just hoping this doesn't die again as I'm plugging it in on the other side of the room, for how many of you is pain, the feeling of discomfort, actually fuel? Like, creative fuel for you, and what way do you shapeshift with this energy field? As we hash this while it's charging here a little bit, not to make things ominous or anything, this question, but Interesting, Tanya. Tanya says, I cry number 2 much. So, and what is the inverse of crying? If you'd say that there was one, and the inverse property to emotional algorithm, crying. If you say, well, crying is you know, X, then what is Y? Feeling awkward standing like that. For those of you who literally just tuned in, and all you see is, oh, thank you, Mandy, so very kind. Boost of the vibe. And he's like, this is getting awkward. We've gotta, you know, just kind of make this less awkward. Let me donate. Let me donate. Hey, let me donate. And he's like, shit. Hurry, fuck. I cannot press it fast enough. Just gonna scare everyone away in the room. Hurry, let me make this like big banner pop up. Block half her face out. Let me come out of left field with everyone here. Throw it up, Mandy. She does have the transmuter digit there, 888. All right, shout out. We couldn't tell, she's transmuting as we speak. Whew. I see you, Rose, on the stage. Mom, I'm not drunk. For those who are not familiar, I don't intoxicate, but I do meditate, and I can't speak for past lives, but here we are, so called in time and space. The accumulation of energy, in a way, possibly. No. Yes, the Cancer energy is so potent, Mom. It's magical. Is this how you usually feel? Mom, is this how you do? It's just, my mom is in Sun in Cancer, Moon in Cancer. Big work, you're in Cancer as well. Yes, that's just getting way too ominous. I feel like people tuning in, they're just like, oh my god, is this the Tower card? Straight up interactive tarot. I think this is the freaking Tower card. I'm just gonna Listen, Cancer's supposed to be all warm and cuddly and fuzzy. It says Cancer. It says Cancer new moon. Marty. Why did you is it the right video? Yeah, it's Alchemy and you. We always watch. Or I don't know, maybe it's an ad. I don't know. Are we keeping up with the jokes, or am I just on another wavelength? Oh my goodness. Is this an ad? It looks like Alchemy. So magic gets weird, guys, sometimes. We have no promises here. I'm incarnating with no you know, no boundaries apparently. Okay. To how it all unfolds. Let's clear that. Alright, let's at least introduce ourselves from this angle. To those just tuning in. Right here, right now, do not fear your reflection in the image that you seek to understand and the weirdness of it all. So, divinely genuine. Genuine's like, listen, I want to laugh at this, but I also I don't know how other people are feeling about it. So I'm gonna just add a few dots. I'll be on, you know, like both sides of the fence at the same time. If I accept it, but I'm also like, I'm waiting to clear the air a little bit. the other people in the room and interacting with that. Yeah. I think it's weird, but maybe I'll just do it in the reverse now. ... LOL. Oh my. Yeah. Guys, my roommates, it's funny, college, oh my goodness. I would just get into these, like, vibes. They'd be like, we're roomies. You've been here, like, the whole time. We've been here, like, the whole time. Like, you're not on anything. Okay. This is like a natural high. All right. Yeah, it was funny. Fun times. Fun times. Now we live alone. Now we have the twin flame coaches in observation. Ignore the mess, you guys, but he's got his legs open. Look, he's feeling comfy, I guess, in my presence. Whew. Oh my! I hope like monetization doesn't get turned off because of that one little slingshot moment of a visual. Twin flame coach, legs wide open. I believe I can fly. Oh my. Look, it's got a smile. Hold on, I have to unplug to show you. It's a daredevil moment, guys. Hoping it won't die. Check it out. Literally smiling. On the bow of the ship. Twin flame coach number 2. Just doing a quick vibe check. Just zoom in. Also to the, I don't know what. Is this the heartthrob? It's their merging. Okay. It's definitely new moon and Cancer vibes. Ow. Oh my god. What is that? A painful eyelash? Oh no. The other day, I like literally I got like an eyelash rash burn. I like rubbed my eye with my bracelet. Yeah. Yup. That was a weird sensation. Alright, let me get on the couch again here. Okay. Whatever you want to call this thing. Comfort zone. Since we were getting kind of weird with the tower moment. I don't know. How are you guys feeling about that? The angle. Sometimes, you guys, I watch the videos over and like, I'm like, I think that should be turned like that. I don't know. It's interesting. I have these like flashback moments. I'm hearing that. Interesting. Okay. Alright. As well. Lala, thank you. Thank you, Lala. So sweet, you guys. You guys, I got emotional with the mattress. Who was there? Who was there? You guys. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Aw, Miss Faith. Everyone has their way, you know, of interacting with their lunar energies around this time, and, you know, what is it that you miss? When you feel that you miss something or someone. And what is the sensation of missing, whatever that is? Like, kind of, create the context for understanding that experience more deeply. Or feeling it more deeply. Like, when you feel like you miss something, do you feel like you sort of, create a moment to experience with it once again? Yes, it is, Chris. Jayhan weaving. so kind, you guys. So loving. How do you guys interpret Cancer energy? Like on an axis. Let's say you think of Cancer and you're like, okay, well, for those of you who are really, you feel like you have some sort of strong interactive space with this element. We all do, but how is it, that you perceive of it on the spectrum of challenge, like challenge that you feel in relation to the archetype of Cancer, an energy associated with Cancer, and its creative potential, what you feel it can serve the space for? What is helpful to your mission, even as it relates to that archetype? And how do you feel that it gets in the way of it as well? Natasha says walking on eggshells around Cancers. So Carl says Cancer ... North says, well, let's be perfect there. Well, is that 8 dots right there? Okay, 7, 8, 8. What if somebody is born at the time of their birth? They have the sun was in orbit, say in the sign of Cancer. And let's say it's at like 1 degree of Cancer. Just entered, just showed up at the party, riding in from the constellation of Gemini, right? 29 degrees of Gemini, I was a Gemini. And let's say that person also has the rest of their planets in Scorpio, and let's say that they're in the house of Leo. Then what? It's interesting because, like, I see astrology as baking. Like, Haley. It's interesting. Like, everything is an ingredient, everything is relevant, right? That's why sometimes I have difficulty with the concept of astrology, because sometimes people say, oh, astrology, like, it rides off, like, if you're a Cancer, you're like this. And it's like, well, is it that you are a Cancer, or is it that you interact with that energy, that you create with it, and that your choice and the way that you create with it is actually a reflection of the many hues of light that relate to that color and frequency? So it's like every sign is kind of like a color. You can't have one color without the others, right? In the spectrum of light, the rainbow. If you acknowledge that we're here as complete beings, as a sort of manifestation of the encapsulation energetically in the moment at the time of your so-called birth, you're that sort of imprint of the universe energetically at a moment in time. The universe is complete, right? In every so-called moment, in every time and space that we occupy consciousness in it. So how is it that you could be, right, one sign and not another, or that you would hold some sort of exclusive relationship with one sign rather than another? If you're everything, everyone's everything, right? Everything contributes to growth. So it's like, it's interesting because let's say you're even like, you're actually baking something, and how many of you are actually bakers? I don't know. I'm quite a few things on fire, so I don't know. Some people love my cooking. Some people are like, all right, well, that's a taste. You can taste it. And that's supposedly a compliment. Whatever. You know, everyone has their taste buds as well. All right, want to get into that conversation? You just you just literally like caught my taste buds on fire. But, you know, how is it? Hi, AJ. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jimmy. Hello. Hello. How is it that the so-called space of the masterpiece that is occupied is influenced by everything? And how can we say that, oh, you know what, the salt was more important than the sugar, or the water was more, you know, responsible for, like, you know, after you're done cooking, do you look back at each ingredient and say, it was about the water only, you know? And the next time, let's say if you want to replicate whatever it was that you created, would you come forth and say, well, we need the water. We need the water only, actually. Only. And if anyone asks how I made this cake, I'm gonna say I made it with water. Right? Like, it's interesting. It's interesting. Or is it in the way that we say, well, it's all of this, and it's all of these ingredients that I line up, and they're all sitting here on the counter, and it's the way that I spin the magic. The way that I say my name and share it in the space that I create. And I'm seeing someone actually baking. It's very interesting right here. And I'm seeing them, they're closing their eyes and they're just feeling the ingredients and they're putting them together and they're just imagining and they're feeling in that process. They're actually singing. And what they see, they create, right? At the end of that cycle is the reflection of how they sang. Sensation. What they felt. They said they would. It's like, what's the, you know, the space of intention in creation. In other words, you can have 5 planets in Cancer, and you could choose to manifest that energy in a way that is different from another way that you could channel it. And so it's interesting when people ask, they're like, well, this has happened like in personal experiences when I'm talking to people, or let's say even like I'll be in an Uber, for example, or let's say I'll be, you know, personal client, you know, one-on-one, whatever it is, and they say, well, I have like so much of XYZ energy, or they'll be like, well, can you look at my chart and like, do I have a good chart? And it's always an interesting thought because at the end of the day, right, it's like not enough to buy a Ferrari. It's not enough to, you know, be given a test. You have to take it. Otherwise, it will just be sitting, right, as a piece of paper with questions on it. And your answers, which determine how you take it and what it means to you, is always a unique conversation that you hold with it privately. You know, no one can tell you, like, oh, you're good at also being a Cancer. Well done. Good job. You're a good Cancer. You're really good at this freaking Cancer thing. You're good. You made it. No one can tell you how perfect you are at your project of life. And it will always be unique, right? To say, oh, you're a Cancer and like, this is what you should be doing with your life. Or you're a Cancer and like, this is how you should be feeling and how you should be like channeling energy and how, you know when a song sounds lip sync. Right? 10 people can sing the same song and you'll know which one really felt it. The way they felt it. That will always be something that I think cannot be faked. Right? You could sing the song freaking perfectly. You can say, I hit that note. I hit it like as long as I should have. I said what I needed to say. I did what I needed to do. I was successful at it. Maybe I even sold copies, whatever it is. Still, you as the singer know when you feel that the magic was made in that moment. right? Is it enough to be famous? Also in the space of what you create, for someone to come to you and say, you sang it like perfectly, rock on, do it again, encore. But if it doesn't feel right to you, I'm sure we've all had those moments where we turned away from what we created in that moment. We said, well, that just wasn't real for me. It just wasn't the tide that took me where I felt I was surfing it. Maybe other people saw me on the wave and said, like, yo, you're a friggin' rock star. You made it. Sure, I made it to the shore. I could, and I maybe did, but is that the island that I dream of creating, actually? Does it actually exist, that epiphany moment of a vision of our expectation that we set ourselves to, where we say, that's my standard. No one else can even tell me that I've reached it because it doesn't exist for them, and I know that. And where we turn and we have the willingness to look at the people in our environment and say to them that what you see is not what I see necessarily. I'm hearing that specifically. And also, no, it wasn't good enough for me. Not because it wasn't good enough, but because it wasn't giving me, the real me, enough credit for what I really, really want. So where is it that we say, well, we can do that, and I could be successful at that? And where we say, well, I want that, and I feel that. What is the purpose of the stage altogether? It just makes you think, right? These people who are like successful and they're famous and they're whatever they are to other people, and they're so at times sad or feel lonely or empty. It just makes you think, then what? What makes you feel like you've made it? Something real for you. And where do we find that answer as well? Is it a tense subject that we battle out with others where we say, trust me, this is real for me? Why is that conversation happening if it is? Even if it's with yourself, an aspect of your being where your heart is in concerto with your mind. Good night, Fuchsia. Love and light to you. Love and light. Interesting. Fireworks? Let's clear that. So... Hello, Teddy. Teddy, 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 Teddy bear. What? Teddy gets a song? Teddy, Teddy, Teddy man. Teddy, Teddy, Teddy bear. Sweet little teddy bear, twin flame coach. How are you doing? Is it too high? High. Up there. With that stare in your eyes. Woo, teddy bear. Tell me please, please. Listen, guys, I'm just checking off the boxes on the new moon in Cancer. Homework agenda assignment list. Interact with your freaking unicorn stuffed animal. Give them voice. Symbolic, you guys. My inner child here. We're talking about divine masculine, divine feminine, the Nigel Thornberry narration video of absolute merge. You guys alright? Did you guys transcend? Or what? This is the lullaby. The lullaby video for the new moon in Cancer. Whew. So the stream of consciousness kept you guys awake. Alright, so let's see. The twin flame narration in the wild. Twin flame coach. The coach. They're riding in coach, y'all. They don't do first class. No one comes first in the twin flame connection. Alright? There's no single order of events where we say, twin flame A preceded twin flame B. And then they came to be. Come Z. You see? Proven. The algorithm of twin flameism. Alright. Literally imagining someone like on a documentary series, twin flames and how they came to be into union. As when they have like these like this Oculus. They got these glasses. Got these two oculi. They have this whole theoretical approach. Interesting. Algorithmic. Let's clear that. Anyways, let's clear that again. And clear it again. And again. So GGGHHH. What happened to F? What happened to I? That spells if. You better not lie, baby, when you answer that question. Why did you just choose G and H? Let's get it on. Yo, I'm so tempted to play that song right here, right now. So much so, I'm willing to sacrifice monetization. Let's get it on. Listen, you guys, in true parallelism of the twin flame, they are not actually staring at one another. They're just staring head on, straight ahead. They're just in power couple mode, you guys. Okay, they're not preoccupied with what the other flame is doing. You know, they're like, listen, I don't care. I could, for all I care. All right. My flamey wamey of perfection over here could ride or die the way they choose to use their power and wield it. I am not concerned with their corner of the same room that we occupy. All I must do is remain in transcendence with my own creative potential. How do I zoom out of my subconscious? Cam's like, BRB. I need to like go tell all my friends who I just like texted and told to get onto this video to just get into another relationship with another feeling right now and just release I don't know what that's about. Jesse. Mom, you texted me? Okay, 1 second. 1 second, you guys. Mother is texting. Alright. 1 second. Should work, Mom. Aw, alright, you guys. Well, so sweet, so much fun. Maybe we'll tune in again a little later, yeah? A little bit light, you all. And I'll see you soon. Bye.